I should probably admit something right away. I started the competition. At least, I think I did. The problem is, Amir was the one who took it seriously. And by the time I realized what was actually happening between us, we'd spent almost 3 months competing over grades, gym records, work promotions, cooking, video games, and even who could make the other laugh first. It sounds stupid now. Back then, it felt personal, especially because I couldn't figure out why I cared so much about beating him. My name is Dorian. I was 26 when all this started. And at the time, I was sharing an apartment with Amir, someone I'd known for about a year. We weren't best friends, not officially anyway. We'd met through a mutual friend who moved away a few months later, leaving us with a lease neither of us could afford alone. So we became roommates, and honestly, it worked. Amir was organized. I was reasonably clean. We both worked, paid rent on time, and didn't have the annoying habits that usually destroy roommate relationships. He liked waking up early, I liked staying up late. He cooked, I ordered takeout, he planned everything. I usually figured things out 5 minutes before they happened. Somehow, it balanced. The only complication was that Amir was annoyingly good at almost everything. And I mean everything. He could cook better than me, run faster than me, beat me at basketball, get better grades in the night classes we were both taking. Even our stupid apartment chores somehow turned into competitions. It started with something completely harmless: laundry. One Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen and found Amir folding clothes on the counter. He glanced at me. "You're doing yours today?" "Probably. You said that yesterday." "I was busy." "You watched 3 episodes of that cooking show." I stared at him. "How do you know that?" "You were laughing loud enough for the neighbors to know." I grabbed my coffee. "Mind your business." He smiled. "I am. I'm just saying I finished mine already." That was it. Nothing. Except I looked down at the basket of clothes I'd been carrying and suddenly felt like I'd been challenged. "You folded yours?" "Yeah." "Let's see." He raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "I want to see how you folded them." "Dorian." "What?" "You're weird." I opened his drawer. He slapped my hand away. "Hey! Don't touch my stuff. You're hiding something." "I'm hiding socks, apparently." He laughed. And that should have been the end of it. Instead, I folded my entire basket perfectly. Then I made sure mine looked better than his. I didn't say anything, but when Amir walked past the living room later and noticed the perfectly stacked shirts on my chair, he stopped. "You did all that just because I said I finished first?" "No." He stared at me. I stared back. Then he smiled. "Oh." That single word irritated me more than it should have. "What?" "Nothing." "Say it." "You're competitive." "I'm not." "You absolutely are." "I just don't like losing." "That means you're competitive." "No, it means I have standards." He laughed. And from that point on, something changed. Not dramatically, just enough. A week later, we were at the gym. I usually went 3 times a week, mostly because I liked being active and needed somewhere to burn off stress after work. Amir had started coming with me. At first, it was convenient. Then, he started keeping track of our workouts. "How much did you bench?" "That's none of your business. Come on." 85. He nodded. "I did 90. I looked at him. He smiled. "Good for you." "Thanks." I hated how pleased he looked. The next week, I did 90. Amir did 95. I did 100. He did 105. Eventually, we were standing there staring at the weight rack like two idiots. "You're doing this on purpose," I said. He wiped his forehead with a towel. "You started it." "I did not. You challenged me." "When?" "Every time you look at me like that." I frowned. "Like what?" Amir's expression changed for half a second. Then he looked away. "Never mind." That was the first time I noticed something strange. Not the competition. The way he looked at me afterward. It wasn't smug anymore. It was almost nervous. I didn't understand it, So I ignored it. That became my strategy with Amir. Ignore things I didn't understand. Unfortunately, there were a lot of them, like the way he'd sometimes sit beside me on the couch even when there were 3 empty seats, or how he'd remember tiny things I mentioned weeks earlier, or how he'd always notice when I was having a bad day before I said anything. And then there was the jealousy. That one was harder to ignore. It happened on a Friday night. I had invited a coworker, Marcus, over because we needed to finish a presentation for Monday. Marcus was funny, confident, and easy to talk to. Nothing romantic, absolutely nothing. But apparently, Amir didn't see it that way. I came into the kitchen around 10 and found him standing there drinking water. You guys still working? Almost done. Marcus was sitting on the couch behind me. Amir glanced at him, then at me, then back at him. Cool. Something about the way he said it made the room colder. Marcus didn't notice. I did. After Marcus left, I found Amir washing an already clean glass. You okay? Yeah. You seem weird. I'm tired. It's 10:30. He shrugged. I leaned against the counter. Did Marcus bother you? His hands stopped moving. No. You sure? Why would he bother me? I don't know. Amir finally looked at me, and for a second, neither of us said anything. Then he gave me that familiar half smile. You really want to know? Yeah. He dried his hands. I don't like him. I laughed. Why? He's annoying. You talked to him for maybe 5 minutes. Didn't need more. I shook my head. You're ridiculous, he smiled again. Maybe. Then he walked past me. Our shoulders brushed, barely, but I felt it. And for some reason, I stood there listening to his footsteps disappear down the hallway. That night, I lay awake longer than I wanted to admit, because I kept thinking about one question. Why did Amir care who I brought home? And worse, why did I care that he cared? I didn't have an answer, not yet. But the next morning, Amir walked into the kitchen wearing a black t-shirt, took one look at me, and said, Race you to work. I laughed. You're serious? Absolutely. And somehow, despite everything, I said yes. That was the beginning. Neither of us knew it yet. But we weren't actually competing against each other. We were competing for the same thing. Neither of us was brave enough to admit it. Not yet. The race to work was supposed to be a joke. At least that's what I told myself. Amir and I lived about 15 minutes from the office, depending on traffic. We normally took the same route, sometimes together, sometimes separately. That morning, though, he stood by the front door holding his keys and wearing that stupid confident smile. Ready? I grabbed my jacket. You're gonna lose. That's a lot of confidence for someone who takes 12 minutes to find his shoes every morning. I know where my shoes are. You were looking for them yesterday. I was looking for the other pair. Sure. I rolled my eyes. We took the stairs down instead of the elevator, and the second we reached the sidewalk, Amir took off. I actually laughed. You asshole! He looked over his shoulder. Come on. I ran after him. It was ridiculous. 2 grown men sprinting down a sidewalk at 8 in the morning, while people with actual lives were trying to get to work. By the time we reached the corner, I was already laughing too hard to keep running properly. Amir was ahead of me. Not by much. I pushed harder. He glanced back. Don't even think about it. Too late. I passed him. He stared at me in disbelief. No way. Yes way. You cheated. How exactly do you cheat in running? You started before me. You said go. I didn't say go yet. You literally said ready. He caught up with me at the crosswalk. That doesn't count. I grinned. It counts. The light changed. We both crossed. And for the rest of the walk to the office, neither of us admitted that we were both smiling. That was how it started. Then the competition spread. At work, we weren't even in the same department, but we somehow managed to turn everything into a contest. Who could finish their weekly report first? Who could get the better response from a difficult client? Who could get to the coffee machine before the morning rush? Even stupid things. One afternoon, I walked into the break room and found Amir standing there with a coworker. She was holding a box of donuts. "Dorian," she said. "Perfect timing." She handed me one. Amir immediately looked at the box. "How many are left?" "3." He grabbed one. I looked at him. "What?" "Nothing." "You were about to say something." "I wasn't." "You were." I smiled. "Are you afraid I'll eat the last one?" He narrowed his eyes. "Maybe." I took another donut. He stared. I took another. "Dorian." "What?" "You're not going to eat 3. Watch me." He shook his head, but he was laughing. Then he reached over and took the final one. I stared at him. "You wouldn't." He took a bite. Too late. I couldn't help laughing. It was stupid. But those little moments became the best parts of my day. And that was exactly what scared me. Because somewhere along the way, beating Amir stopped being the point. I just wanted to make him react. I wanted that smile, that laugh, that look he gave me when I surprised him. I wanted his attention, and I was beginning to realize that I wanted it more than I wanted to admit. Then came the promotion. That was the first time the competition actually hurt. My boss called me into his office on a Wednesday afternoon. I'd been working toward a senior position for months, and I thought I had a decent chance. When I walked back out, I was smiling. Amir happened to be walking down the hallway. He stopped. "What's that face?" I tried to play it cool. "What face?" "That face." "What face?" "The one where you're pretending you're not excited." I couldn't help smiling. "I got it." His smile appeared immediately. "Seriously?" "Yeah." He slapped my shoulder. "Dude, that's awesome." There was something genuine in his expression. No competition, no teasing, just pride. And somehow, that meant more to me than I expected. "Thanks." He nodded. "You earned it." I looked at him for a second, then I said, "Your turn." He frowned. "What?" "You've been waiting for your review, too." "Tomorrow. You'll get it." "Hopefully." "You will." He smiled. "You sound pretty confident." "I am." "Why?" "Because you're good at what you do." He looked at me strangely, not annoyed, not amused, just quiet. Then he said, "Thanks, Dorian." That was the first time he said my name like that, softly, almost carefully. I thought about it the entire drive home. Then I walked into the apartment and found a small cake sitting on the kitchen counter. I stopped. There was a note beside it, "Congratulations, show off." I laughed. "Amir?" No answer. I walked down the hallway and knocked on his bedroom door. "Come in." I opened it. He was sitting at his desk, working on his laptop. "You bought me a cake?" He shrugged. "It's not a big deal. It has my name on it. That's how congratulations cakes work." I held the note up. "Show off?" "You are." I smiled. "Thanks." He nodded. I started to leave. Then he said, "Dorian?" I turned. "Yeah?" He hesitated. "You know I'm happy for you, right?" The question caught me off guard. "Yeah, I mean it." "I know." He looked down at his desk. "Good." I stood there for another second. Then I left. That night, something shifted. Not between us, inside me. Because I finally understood that Amir wasn't competing with me because he wanted to beat me. He competed with me because he wanted to stay close to me. I just didn't know why. A few days later, we went out with some friends to celebrate my promotion. Nothing crazy, just drinks, food, and a crowded bar downtown. Amir sat beside me most of the night. At one point, one of our friends, Jenna, leaned across the table. "You two are weird." Amir looked at her. "What?" "You're always doing everything together." I laughed. "We're roommates." "That doesn't explain it." Amir shrugged. "What's there to explain?" She looked between us. "Nothing." But she smiled like she knew something we didn't. Later that night, I went outside for some air. Amir followed me. The street was quiet compared with the bar. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just needed a minute. He leaned against the wall beside me. For once, neither of us joked. We stood there in silence. Then he said, You really are happy about the promotion? I looked at him. Of course. Good. You already asked me that. I know. Why? He shrugged. I don't know. I studied his face. There was something different about him tonight, something vulnerable. Amir. Yeah? Why do you care so much? He looked at me. About what? Everything. He laughed quietly. Everything? You know what I mean. He looked away. I guess I just like having someone to compete with. That's not an answer. I know. Then give me one. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he looked back at me. I don't like the idea of you getting ahead without me. I laughed. You're serious? Yeah. Why? His eyes stayed on mine, and for a second I thought he was actually going to tell me. Instead, he smiled. Because then I'd have to catch up. I shook my head. You're impossible. Maybe. He pushed away from the wall. Come on, let's go home. We started walking. Our shoulders brushed once, then again. Neither of us moved away. And I remember thinking that maybe I was finally getting close to understanding him. Then, just before we reached our apartment, Amir stopped. Dorian. I turned. He looked nervous. Really nervous. I need to tell you something. My heart started beating faster. What? He opened his mouth. Then his phone rang. He looked at the screen. His expression changed instantly. It's my sister, he answered, and whatever he heard on the other end made the color drain from his face. Wait, what? I watched him carefully. Okay, I'm coming. He hung up. What happened? He looked at me. I have to go. Where? My mom's in the hospital. And just like that, every stupid competition between us stopped mattering. Because suddenly, I wasn't thinking about winning. I was thinking about Amir. And I realized how much I cared about him. Maybe more than I should have. Maybe more than either of us was ready to admit. I don't think I've ever seen Amir look scared before that night. Annoyed, constantly, competitive, obviously, stressed, plenty of times. But scared, never. The second he told me his mom was in the hospital, everything else disappeared from my mind. Do you need a ride? I asked. He shook his head. I've got my car. I'll come with you, he looked at me. Dorian, I'm coming. You don't have to. I know. He stared at me for a second, then nodded. Okay. The drive to the hospital was almost completely silent. Amir usually couldn't sit in a car for 5 minutes without putting music on or making some sarcastic comment about my driving. That night, he just stared out the passenger window. His hands were clasped together tightly. Every few minutes, he'd check his phone. Finally, I reached over and put my hand on his shoulder. He looked at me. You okay? He nodded. Yeah. You don't have to say you're okay if you're not. He swallowed. I know. That was all he said. Sure. When we got to the hospital, his sister was waiting near the entrance. She hugged him immediately. I stayed a few steps away. His sister noticed me. Who's this? Amir glanced over. This is Dorian, my roommate. She gave me a tired smile. Thank you for bringing him. I came with him. She nodded. You're a good friend. Something about that sentence stayed with me. A good friend. That's what I was. At least, that's what I told myself. We spent the next few hours in that strange hospital waiting room limbo, where time doesn't seem real. Amir's mom had experienced a health scare, but thankfully the doctors weren't expecting anything life-threatening. They wanted to monitor her overnight and run more tests in the morning. Eventually, Amir's sister went home to get some sleep. I told Amir he should stay. He shook his head. I don't want to leave her. You don't have to. I mean, I don't want to leave you either. I looked at him. You're not leaving me. He smiled faintly. Okay. We sat there until nearly 3 in the morning. At some point, Amir fell asleep, his head tilted sideways against the wall. I watched him for a moment. He looked completely different when he wasn't trying to prove something. No smirk, no teasing, no competitive attitude, just Amir, tired, vulnerable, human. I took my jacket off and placed it over his shoulders. A few minutes later, he opened his eyes. You cold? No. You gave me your jacket. Yeah. Why? Because you're cold. He looked down at the jacket, then at me. You're always doing stuff like that. What stuff? Taking care of me. I shrugged. Someone has to. He smiled. That's usually my job. Maybe we're both bad at letting the other person do it. His smile disappeared. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then he quietly said, Maybe. We didn't talk about it again. His mom was released the following afternoon. Nothing serious, thankfully. When we got back home, Amir looked exhausted. I ordered food. He didn't argue, that alone told me how tired he was. We ate on the couch while watching some random movie neither of us was actually paying attention to. Halfway through, Amir spoke. Dorian? Yeah? I'm sorry. For what? For everything lately. I looked at him. What do you mean? The competing. I laughed softly. You mean the ridiculous competitions? Yeah, it's fine. No. He paused. I think I took it too far. I studied him. Why did you do it? He looked at the TV. I don't know. Amir. He sighed. You really don't let things go, do you? Not when I'm curious. He smiled. Then he turned toward me. I guess I liked having something that was ours. I frowned. What do you mean? The competition. He laughed awkwardly. Sounds stupid when I say it out loud. It does. Thanks. I smiled. But I get it. He looked at me. You do? Yeah. I leaned back. I think I liked it too. Why? That question caught me off guard. I thought about giving him a joke. Instead, I told the truth. Because it gave me an excuse to spend time with you. Amir went completely still. I immediately realized what I'd said. Not like, I know. No, I mean, I know what you mean. His voice was quiet, and suddenly the room felt much smaller. I looked at him. He looked back. Neither of us laughed. Neither of us looked away. Then Amir said something that I wasn't expecting. What if that's why I started it? My heart skipped. What? He rubbed his hands together nervously. I don't know when it happened. What happened? You. I stared at him. He looked down. I started noticing you. My mouth went dry. Amir? Not like a roommate. He finally looked up. I started looking for you when I came home. I'd hear the front door and wonder if it was you. I'd make dinner and think about whether you'd like it. I'd go to the gym because I knew you'd be there. He laughed nervously. And then I started competing with you because it was easier than admitting I just wanted your attention. I didn't know what to say. For months, I'd been trying to understand him. And suddenly, he was explaining everything. The races, the gym, the stupid arguments, the jealousy, the cake, all of it. You were jealous of Marcus, I said quietly. He closed his eyes. Yeah. Why? Because I liked you. There it was, simple, terrifying, honest. I stared at him. You never said anything. I was scared. Of me? No. He shook his head. Of what it would mean. I nodded slowly. I get that. He looked at me carefully. Do you? Yeah. I took a breath. Because I like you too. His expression changed. For the first time since I'd known him, Amir looked completely speechless. You do? I laughed nervously. Yeah. How long? I don't know. Dorian. Probably longer than I realized. He smiled. A real smile. Not the competitive one. Not the smug one. Just happy. That's insane. What? I spent all this time trying to beat you, I laughed. And I spent all this time trying to beat you back. He shook his head. We're idiots. Definitely. The silence afterward wasn't awkward. It was almost peaceful. Then Amir moved a little closer, not enough to touch, just enough that I noticed. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you still going to compete with me? I smiled. Absolutely. He laughed. Seriously? Of course. With everything? Everything. He nodded. Good. Why? Because I don't want this to change who we are. That sentence hit me harder than anything else he'd said. I nodded. It won't. For the first time, neither of us was trying to win. We were just sitting there. Two people who had spent months circling around something neither one was brave enough to name. And then Amir's phone buzzed. He looked at it. His sister had texted, "Mom's doing great. She's already complaining about hospital food." Amir laughed with relief. I smiled. Good. He put the phone down. Then he looked at me again. Dorian? Yeah? I've been wanting to do something for a while. My heart started pounding. What? He leaned toward me, slowly, giving me plenty of time to move away. I didn't. Our faces were only inches apart when he stopped. Is this okay? I nodded. Yeah. And then he kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. There was no music, no perfect movie moment, just a quiet kiss on our couch at 3 in the morning, after months of pretending we didn't feel what we'd both been feeling. When he pulled back, we stared at each other. Then I laughed. What? He smiled. We're never going to hear the end of this. Why? Because, technically, he paused. I won. I shoved his shoulder. You did not. I kissed you first. That doesn't count. It absolutely counts. You're unbelievable. He grinned. Race you to the kitchen. I stood up. You're on. And just like that, the competition started again. Only this time, neither of us was running away from what we actually wanted. The next morning was weird. Not bad weird, just different. I woke up on the couch with my neck completely destroyed and Amir asleep beside me. At some point during the night, we'd apparently fallen asleep sitting there. His head was resting against the back cushion, his arms folded across his chest. I stared at him for a few seconds. Then he opened one eye. You staring at me? I immediately looked away. No, you were. I wasn't. He smiled without opening his other eye. You're a terrible liar. Go back to sleep. Can't. Why? Because my boyfriend is staring at me? I froze. He opened both eyes. Too much? I shook my head. No. He smiled. Good. Boyfriend. I'd heard the word before, obviously, but hearing Amir say it about me felt strange in the best possible way. I smiled. So, we're doing this? Doing what? This. He looked at me. You mean dating? Yeah. I thought the kiss made that pretty obvious. I just wanted to make sure. He nodded. Then yeah. A pause. Unless you're planning on beating me to it. I laughed. Already starting? Always. I stood up. Coffee? Race you. It's literally 5 feet away. Exactly. I pushed past him. He followed. We were both laughing by the time we reached the kitchen. That morning should have been perfect, and honestly, it almost was, until we started trying to figure out what dating actually meant. Neither of us had much experience with relationships like this. Amir had dated women before. I had dated men. But this was different because we'd already been living together. We knew each other's routines. We knew what annoyed each other. We knew what made each other laugh. There was no mysterious early dating stage. No pretending to be cooler than we were. I'd already seen Amir at 7 in the morning with terrible hair and coffee breath. He'd seen me panic because I couldn't find my keys while they were literally in my hand. So we skipped all the usual stuff, which should have made things easier. Instead, it made everything feel more serious, because now every little thing mattered. The first real argument happened over something incredibly stupid. We were grocery shopping. I grabbed a bag of chips. Amir took it from my cart. No, I stared at him. What? You don't need those. Excuse me? You said you were trying to eat healthier. I changed my mind. You change your mind every Tuesday. I grabbed the chips back. I'm buying them. He took them again. You'll eat the whole bag. That's my problem. Then don't complain when you feel sick. I stared at him. Are you my boyfriend or my nutritionist? He smiled. Both. No. Yes? I reached for the chips. He lifted them above his head. You're ridiculous. You're stubborn. I hate you. No, you don't. He said it casually, but the words landed differently. I looked at him. He looked at me. Then he lowered the bag. Sorry. For what? I don't want us fighting over stupid stuff. I nodded. Me neither. He handed me the chips. Buy them. I smiled. Thank you. I'm still judging you. That's fine. We continued shopping. 5 minutes later, I noticed he'd put my favorite ice cream into the cart. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. But I smiled. That became our new language. Small things, quiet things. Things neither of us had to explain. Then, work complicated everything. My promotion came with more responsibility than I'd expected. Longer hours, more meetings, more pressure, and Amir had his own career problems. His department was restructuring, and he wasn't sure whether his position would survive. We started coming home at different times. Sometimes I'd get home after he'd already gone to bed. Other nights he'd work late while I ate dinner alone. The first week was manageable, the second week wasn't. I missed him. That surprised me. We were still living in the same apartment, but somehow I was seeing less of him than when we were just roommates. One Thursday night, I came home around 11. The apartment was dark. I found Amir asleep on the couch. His laptop was still open. A half-finished spreadsheet covered the screen. I quietly closed it. Then I noticed the empty takeout container beside him. He'd apparently waited for me to come home before eating. I stood there for a moment. Then I grabbed a blanket and covered him. He stirred. Dorian, go back to sleep. What time is it? 11. You're late. I know. Everything okay? Yeah. He nodded sleepily. Good. I started walking toward my room. Then I heard him say, I missed you. I stopped. I turned around. He was barely awake. Say that again. His eyes opened slightly. I said I missed you. I smiled. I missed you too. He reached his hand toward me. I walked over and sat beside him. He took my hand. Neither of us said anything. That moment reminded me of something important. We'd spent so much time competing that I'd forgotten what it felt like to simply be with him. No score, no winner, no challenge, just us. Unfortunately, life doesn't care when you finally figured something out. The next problem came 2 weeks later. Amir got offered a job, a really good one. Better salary, better position, better opportunities. There was just one problem. It was in another city. When he told me, he looked almost guilty. I haven't accepted yet. I stared at him. Why not? Because of you. I frowned. You can't turn down a job because of me. I know. Then why are you considering it? He looked down. Because I don't know what happens to us if I move. My chest tightened. We'd figure it out. You sure? Yeah. You do long distance? If that's what it takes. He nodded slowly. I could tell he wasn't convinced. Amir? What? You should take the job if you want it. He looked at me. I don't want to lose you. You won't. You don't know that. No. I stepped closer. But I know I don't want you making a huge career decision because you're afraid I'll leave. He looked away. I continued. You spent all this time trying to keep up with me. Don't start shrinking your life just because we're together. He was quiet. Then he smiled faintly. You really are competitive. What does that have to do with anything? You're basically challenging me to take the job. I smiled. Maybe I am. He laughed. That's unfair. Life's unfair. He shook his head. I'll think about it. Good. He kissed my forehead. Thank you. The next few days were strange. We didn't know what the future looked like, but instead of avoiding it, we talked about it. Money, distance, visits, schedules, everything. It felt more serious than anything we'd done before. Then, 3 days later, Amir came home carrying a cardboard box. I immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? He put the box on the table. I accepted the job. My stomach dropped. Okay, it's 6 weeks from now. I nodded. Okay. He watched my face. You're not going to say anything? What do you want me to say? I don't know. I walked over to him. I'm proud of you. His eyes softened. You are? Of course. He hugged me. I held him tightly. But there was something neither of us said. The thought of 6 weeks suddenly felt very short. And for the first time since we'd started dating, I wondered if being in love with someone was enough to make the distance easy. Because we'd spent months competing to stay beside each other. Now, one of us was about to live, and neither of us knew how to compete with that. The 6 weeks went by faster than either of us wanted. At first, we tried to pretend nothing was changing. We still went to the gym, still argued about what to watch, still competed over stupid things. Who could cook dinner faster? Who could finish a crossword first? Who would get out of bed when the alarm went off? But underneath all of it was a countdown neither of us talked about. 5 weeks, 4, 3, 2, then suddenly there was one. Amir started packing. I hated watching it. Not because he was leaving forever. He wasn't. The new city was only a few hours away by train. We'd already agreed he'd come home most weekends, and I'd visit whenever work allowed. Logically, it wasn't a big deal. Emotionally, it felt huge. One night, I walked into his room and found him sitting on the floor surrounded by boxes. He looked up. Need help? He smiled. Always. I sat beside him. For a while, we packed in silence. Then I picked up a framed photograph from his desk. It was from our first year as roommates. We were both holding beers, standing outside the apartment. You kept this? Obviously. You look terrible. So do you, I laughed. I look great. You looked like you just lost a fight. I had. He looked at me. You remember? Yeah. What happened? You beat me at pool. You were terrible at pool. I was distracted. By what? I looked at him. You. He smiled. Fair. I set the photograph down. Then I noticed something else. A small envelope tucked underneath a stack of papers. What's that? Nothing. He reached for it. I grabbed it first. Dorian. I opened it. Inside was an old receipt from the restaurant where we'd celebrated my promotion. I looked at him. You kept this? He shrugged. Yeah. Why? He looked embarrassed. I don't know. I smiled. You're sentimental. Don't tell anyone. Your secret's safe. He took the receipt from me and put it back in the envelope. Then he said quietly, I don't want to forget any of this. I stopped smiling. You won't. I know. He looked around his room. I just wish I didn't have to leave. I moved closer. You're not leaving me. He nodded. I know. But you're scared. A little? So am I. He looked at me. That honesty seemed to help. He leaned his head against my shoulder. I rested my cheek against his hair. Neither of us spoke for a while. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. Do you remember the first time I saw you? I laughed. Unfortunately, you were arguing with the landlord. He was trying to charge me for a broken sink. You were terrifying. I was right. You were loud. You liked it. I did. He smiled. I knew I wanted to be friends with you immediately. I looked down at him. Friends? Yeah. That's all? He paused. No. My heart tightened. What else? I thought you were attractive. I laughed. Seriously? Very. You never said that? You would have gotten an ego. I already have one? Exactly. I smiled. Then he looked at me seriously. But I didn't think you'd ever like me. Why? Because you always seemed so confident. I laughed. That's funny. Why? Because I spent half our first year wondering whether you even liked me. He looked surprised. I thought you were annoyed by me. I was. He laughed. But not because I didn't like you. Why? Because I liked you too much. He smiled, and then we kissed. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate. It was familiar, comfortable, like we'd already done it 1,000 times. When we pulled apart, Amir rested his forehead against mine. I'm going to miss this. Me too. The next morning, we went to the train station. His bags were already packed. We stood together on the platform. Neither of us knew what to say. Finally, Amir smiled. Don't replace me, I laughed. Never. Good. You either. Impossible. The train arrived. He picked up his bags. Then he turned back. Dorian. Yeah? I love you. I froze. He looked almost nervous after saying it. I smiled. I love you too. He kissed me quickly. Then he boarded. I watched the train disappear, and for the first time since we'd met, I went home alone. The apartment felt wrong, too quiet, too empty. His shoes weren't by the door. His coffee mug wasn't beside the sink. His jacket wasn't hanging over the chair. I walked into the kitchen and instinctively looked toward his usual seat. Empty. That night, I made dinner for one. It was disappointing, not because I couldn't cook, because there was nobody there to argue with me about how much salt I used. The next morning, my phone buzzed. Amir, miss me yet? I smiled. Me, no. 3 dots appeared. Amir, liar. Me, maybe a little Amir. I knew it. And just like that, things became easier. We texted constantly, called every night. Sometimes we'd stay on video chat while doing completely separate things. He'd work, I'd work. Neither of us would talk for 20 minutes. We just liked knowing the other person was there. Weekends became something we looked forward to. The first time I visited him, he took me around the city like he'd been living there for years. He showed me his office, his favorite coffee shop, a park near his apartment. Then we found a small restaurant and spent an hour arguing over which dessert to order. Normal, almost. Because there was something different about seeing him in a life that didn't include me. He had coworkers, friends, a new routine, a new apartment, and part of me was proud. Another part was scared. One evening, we were walking back to his apartment when he stopped. What's wrong? Nothing. You're doing the thing. What thing? The quiet thing. I sighed. I just realized your life is moving forward. He looked confused. So is yours. I know. Then what's wrong? I looked at him. I don't want to become the part of your life you have to schedule. He was silent. Then he stepped closer. You're not. How do you know? Because you're not an appointment. He took my hand. You're home. I smiled. That's cheesy. I know. Terrible. Shut up, I laughed. Then he squeezed my hand. There's something else. What? I've been thinking about us. He took a breath. I don't want to keep doing this halfway. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I want a future. My heart started beating faster. With me? He laughed. No, with the mailman. Amir. Yeah, with you. I stared at him. What kind of future? He looked nervous. A real one. I didn't answer immediately, not because I didn't want it, because I did. More than I'd expected. And that scared me. I want that too? His shoulders relaxed. Yeah? Yeah. He smiled. Then he pulled me into a hug. For a few seconds, everything felt perfect. Until my phone rang. It was my boss. I answered. And within 30 seconds, I knew something had changed. My company was opening a new branch in the same city Amir had moved to, and my boss wanted me to lead it. I hung up slowly. Amir was watching me. What happened? I looked at him. I got offered a new position. His smile appeared. That's great. There's a catch. What? I took a breath. It's here. He stared at me. Here? I nodded. He smiled, then laughed. You're kidding. No. He shook his head. After all that? I laughed too. We really are ridiculous. But neither of us said what we were both thinking. Maybe we'd been competing all along because neither of us knew how to ask for the same thing, a life together. And now, somehow, life was giving us another chance. I didn't tell Amir I'd accepted the position that night, not immediately. I wanted to make sure it was real first. There were contracts to sign, details to work out, and a ridiculous amount of paperwork. But more than that, I wanted to surprise him. For the first time since he'd moved away, I had something to look forward to, besides counting down the days until I saw him again. The following week was chaos. I worked late every night. My boss kept throwing meetings at me. HR sent me documents at random hours. And somehow, through all of it, I managed to keep the secret. Amir noticed something was different. Of course he did. He always noticed. Always. You're hiding something, he said during our usual video call Thursday night. I looked at the screen. What? You're smiling. I smile? Not like that. Like what? Like you're about to tell me something, I laughed. You're imagining things. He narrowed his eyes. Dorian. Yes? What did you do? Nothing. You're terrible at lying. I learned from you. He laughed. Whatever you're hiding, I'll find out. Good luck. He pointed at the camera. Challenge accepted. I smiled. There it was again, that old competitive spark. But this time it felt different, playful, comfortable, like something we'd always have between us. The next weekend, I took the train to his city. He met me at the station. The second I saw him, I forgot every clever thing I'd planned to say. He looked exhausted, but happy. He dropped his bag and pulled me into a hug. You're late. By 3 minutes. Still counts. You missed me. Obviously. He kissed me, then he grabbed my bag. I'll carry that. I can carry my own bag. I know. So, why are you carrying it? Because I want to. I smiled. Okay. That night, we cooked dinner together. Or tried to. Amir insisted he could make pasta better than me. I told him he couldn't. 20 minutes later, we were standing in the kitchen arguing about sauce. You added too much garlic. You can never have too much garlic. You absolutely can. That's a ridiculous opinion. You're ridiculous. You're jealous. Of your cooking? Exactly. I laughed. Then I looked at him, and for a second, I realized how much I'd missed moments like this. Not the big romantic things. This. Standing barefoot in a kitchen, arguing about garlic, laughing over nothing, feeling like home. After dinner, we sat on the balcony. The city light stretched out below us. Amir rested his head against my shoulder. You know what I was thinking? What? When we first met, I never thought we'd end up here. Neither did I. I thought we'd just be roommates. Same. And then I started competing with you. You were obsessed. I was not. You absolutely were. He laughed. Okay, maybe a little. I looked at him. Why did you really start? He was quiet, then he answered. Because I didn't know how to tell you I wanted you in my life. I smiled. That was your strategy? Yeah. Terrible strategy. It worked. Eventually. He turned his head. What was yours? What? How did you try to get my attention? I thought about it. I guess I competed back. He laughed. So, we were both idiots. Pretty much. We sat quietly for a while. Then I said, I have something to tell you. He immediately sat up. What? I smiled. You remember the position I told you about? Yeah. I took it. He stared at me. Seriously? I nodded. Here. He looked around. Here? Same city. His face completely changed. You're moving here? Eventually. He stood up, then hugged me so hard I nearly lost my balance. You're serious? Yeah. He pulled back. You're actually moving here. I am. He kissed me, then again. Then he laughed. I can't believe you. Why? I thought we'd have to do this long-distance thing for years. So did I. When do you start? 3 weeks. He stared at me. 3 weeks? Yeah. He shook his head, smiling. You kept this from me for 3 weeks? I wanted to surprise you. You're insane. You're happy. Very. He kissed me again. And that night, for the first time, the future didn't feel scary. It felt possible. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. I woke up early and found Amir sitting at the kitchen table. He was staring at his laptop. His expression was serious. What happened? He looked up. Nothing. I walked over. That's not your nothing face. He sighed. I got another offer. My stomach tightened. From who? Another company. Here. He nodded. Better salary. I waited. And? He looked at me. It's in another city. The excitement I'd felt the night before suddenly disappeared. How far? About 4 hours. I sat down. When do they want an answer? Friday. I stared at him. You're considering it? I don't know. Why? Because it's a really good opportunity. Yeah. And I could make more money. Yeah. And I'd be closer to a lot of the things I want professionally. I nodded. Everything he was saying made sense. That's what made it hard. Then he looked at me. But I just got you back. The room went quiet. You can't make a career decision based only on me. I know. You told me not to do that. I know. So don't. He looked frustrated. What am I supposed to do? Make the decision you would make if I didn't exist. He stared at me. I continued. Then we'll figure out the relationship part. He rubbed his forehead. I hate this. I know. I don't want to choose between you and my career. You don't have to. What if there isn't a choice where I get both? Then we'll make one. He looked at me. You make everything sound easy. No, I smiled. I just don't want us to become another competition. That got him. He looked down. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then he reached across the table and took my hand. I don't want to compete with you anymore. I squeezed his hand. Good. I want to build something with you. So do I. He smiled. Even if I'm annoying? Especially then. He laughed. We spent the rest of the weekend talking through everything. What we wanted, where we wanted to live, how much we cared about our careers, what mattered most. And for once, neither of us tried to win. We tried to understand. When I left Sunday evening, Amir walked me to the station. He hugged me tightly. I'll call you tonight. You better. I will. Then he kissed me. I love you. I love you too. I boarded the train. He stood there until it disappeared. For the next 4 days, we waited. Friday came. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Amir. I made my decision. My heart started pounding. I called immediately. He answered. Hey, what's the decision? He laughed. You don't even say hello? Amir. Okay. He took a breath. I turned it down. I closed my eyes. Are you sure? Yeah. Why? Because I realized something. What? I don't want the biggest possible career? He paused. I want a career I actually enjoy. I smiled. And? And I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore? I leaned back in my chair. What about the money? I'll survive. And your career? I'll build it here. He laughed. And maybe I'll even let you beat me at something once in a while. I smiled. Never. See? There you are. What? My competitive boyfriend. I laughed. But then he said something that made me go quiet. Dorian? Yeah? I think I finally understand what we were competing for. I waited. Each other. I smiled. Yeah. We were both trying to win the same person. You mean me? No. He laughed. Us. And that was when I realized he'd been right. All those races, all those arguments, all those stupid challenges, they weren't really about winning. They were about finding excuses to stay close. Neither of us had known how to say, I want you. So we kept saying, I can beat you. And somehow, against all odds, it worked. 3 weeks later, I moved into Amir's city. I wish I could say it was some huge romantic moment. It wasn't. It was boxes. Way too many boxes. A broken coffee table, 2 missing screws, and me standing in the middle of my new apartment at 11 at night, wondering why I'd willingly done this to myself. Amir was sitting on the floor, surrounded by packing paper. You sure you don't want to hire movers next time? I looked at him. You're the one who insisted we could do it ourselves. I underestimated how much stuff you have. I don't have that much stuff. He pointed toward a stack of boxes. You have 4 boxes labeled miscellaneous. That's organization. That's denial. I threw a piece of packing paper at him. He laughed. It felt good, really good. For the first time, we were living together because we chose to. Not because rent was expensive. Not because we happened to be roommates. Because we wanted the same life. The first few weeks were surprisingly easy. We fell into a routine almost immediately. I started at my new position. Amir settled into his job. We cooked dinner most nights. We went to the gym together. On weekends, we'd explore the city. Sometimes we'd do absolutely nothing. Those were my favorite days. I'd sit on the couch working while Amir read beside me. Every now and then, one of us would say something, usually something stupid. Then we'd go back to whatever we were doing. It felt peaceful until one Saturday morning when Amir walked into the kitchen holding 2 coffees. He put one in front of me. Race you, I looked at him. To what? Who finishes their coffee first? You've lost your mind. Scared? I picked up the cup. Never. 3 minutes later, we were both laughing. You cheated. How? You started drinking before I did. You said go. I didn't say go. You're such a sore loser. I'm not losing. You are literally behind. I looked at his empty cup, then mine. That's because you drink coffee like water. He smiled. I won. Fine. He leaned against the counter. So, what's my prize? I stared at him. You want a prize for drinking coffee? Absolutely. What do you want? He thought about it. Then he smiled. You. I laughed. You're cheesy. Maybe. He pulled me closer. I miss saying things like that. You've been saying them for years. Not like this. He kissed me. And for a moment, everything was perfect. But real relationships aren't perfect. Ours wasn't either. The first serious argument happened about 2 months after I moved. It started with work. I'd been offered another project, a big one. It meant traveling twice a month, not constantly, but enough that I'd be gone several days at a time. I told Amir over dinner. He went quiet. How long? Probably 3 months. 3 months? Yeah. He nodded. You're taking it? I think so. You think? I haven't decided. He put his fork down. You should take it. I frowned. You don't sound like you mean that. I do. You're upset? I'm not upset. You are. He sighed. I just don't want you to disappear again. I won't. You don't know that. I stared at him. Why don't you trust me? His expression changed immediately. That's not what I said. It sounds like it. No. He shook his head. I trust you. Then what's the problem? He was silent. Finally, he said, I've spent a lot of my life feeling like I have to compete for everything. I looked at him. With me? With everyone. He leaned back. I thought if I wasn't better, faster, smarter, more successful, people would choose someone else. I didn't know what to say. He continued. Then I met you. His voice softened. And somehow I did the same thing with you. I reached across the table. He took my hand. I know you're not going anywhere, he said. But sometimes my brain doesn't believe it. I squeezed his fingers. You don't have to compete for me. I know. You already have me. He smiled. I know. And if I travel for work, that doesn't change. I know. I looked at him. Do you? He nodded. I'm learning. That was the thing about loving someone. You didn't magically fix each other's insecurities. You learned them, you listened, you tried, and sometimes you got it wrong, but you kept trying. I accepted the project. For the next 3 months, I traveled, and surprisingly, it brought us closer. We called every night, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for 2 hours. Amir would send me pictures of whatever ridiculous dinner he'd cooked. I'd send him photos from whatever city I was in. We started leaving little notes for each other before I traveled. Nothing dramatic, just, don't forget your charger. Eat something besides airport food. Call me when you land. One night, I came back from a trip earlier than expected. I opened the apartment door quietly. Amir was in the living room. He looked up. His face immediately lit up. You're home. I dropped my bag. Yeah. He walked over, then stopped. What's wrong? Nothing. You're smiling weird. I laughed. I missed you. He hugged me. I'm glad you're back. We stayed like that for a while. Then he whispered, I have something for you. What? He pulled a small box from behind the couch. I stared at it. What's that? Open it. Inside was a key. I looked at him. What's this? It's not what you think. I laughed. Then what is it? He took a breath. I know we're already living together. Yeah. And I know you have a key. Also true. He smiled. But this one is different. I looked down at it. He continued. I got it engraved. I turned it over. There was a tiny inscription. Wherever you go, come home to me. I looked up. Amir? I know it's cheesy. No, I smiled. It's perfect. He hugged me. I held him tightly. And, for the first time, I understood that the competition really was over. Not because one of us had won, because neither of us needed to. We had stopped asking who gets ahead and started asking how do we move forward together. A few months later, we celebrated our first anniversary. Nothing fancy, just dinner at the restaurant where we'd first talked about our future. Halfway through the meal, Amir raised his glass. To us, I smiled. To us. He clinked his glass against mine. Then he said, You know what I still think about? What? The first race. I laughed. The race to work? Yeah. You cheated. I won. You started early. You're still mad about that? Absolutely. He grinned. Then he leaned closer. You know what I think? What? If I hadn't started competing with you. He paused. We might never have figured this out. I smiled. Maybe. He took my hand. I'm glad I did. So am I. Then he kissed me, and for once, there was no score, no winner, no loser. Just two people who had finally stopped competing for each other. Because we'd realized we were both trying to build the same thing. A life together. That was the only thing either of us had ever really wanted. If you'd told me a year earlier that I'd end up living with Amir, building a life with him, and actually enjoying the fact that he beat me at things, I would have laughed. Because back then, winning mattered. At least, I thought it did. I wanted to be faster, stronger, more successful. I wanted to prove I could keep up with him. And somewhere along the way, I realized I wasn't trying to beat Amir. I was trying to get closer to him. A year after our first ridiculous race to work, we were sitting in our apartment on a rainy Sunday morning. Amir was making breakfast. I was pretending to help. You're doing nothing, he said. I'm supervising. You're sitting on the counter. Exactly. He shook his head. You're useless. You love me. Unfortunately, I smiled. He placed a plate in front of me. Eat. I looked at the food. You made this? Yeah. You didn't burn anything? Wow. What? You've really grown as a person. He laughed. I took a bite, then looked at him. This is actually good. Actually? Very good. He smiled proudly. I win. I laughed. You're keeping score? Always. I stood up. Okay. What? You want a competition? His eyes lit up. Always? I pointed toward the sink. Whoever finishes the dishes first gets to pick the movie tonight. He stared at me. That's your competition? Unless you're scared? He immediately grabbed a dish towel. Not a chance. We spent the next 10 minutes racing around the kitchen. It was ridiculous. Water everywhere. Soap on the floor. Amir laughing so hard he nearly dropped a plate. I finished first. He stared at me. No. Yes. You cheated. Again with the cheating. You distracted me. How? You smiled. I laughed. That sounds like a you problem. He walked over and pulled me into a hug. Fine. So, I picked the movie? Yeah. I smiled. Romantic comedy. No. Yes. Absolutely not. I kissed him. He sighed. Fine. We ended up watching some terrible romantic comedy neither of us actually liked. Halfway through, Amir fell asleep with his head on my shoulder. I looked down at him, and I thought about how strange our story really was. We'd started as roommates, two people who barely knew each other. Then, somehow, we'd become rivals, friends, boyfriends, and eventually something more stable than any label I'd expected. We still competed. We probably always would. But now I understood the difference. Before, competition had been our way of hiding what we wanted. Now it was just part of who we were. A joke, a game, a reason to laugh. Not a test of whether one of us was worth more than the other. A few weeks later, Amir came home from work with a serious expression. I immediately knew something was up. What? He took off his jacket. I got promoted. I smiled. Seriously? He nodded. That's amazing. He looked at me suspiciously. You're not going to compete? I laughed. No. He raised an eyebrow. No? I've learned my lesson. He walked closer. So, you're finally admitting I'm better? Don't push it. He smiled. I knew you couldn't resist. I hugged him. I'm proud of you. He hugged me back. I'm proud of you too. We stood there for a while. Then he whispered, You know what the weirdest part is? What? When I first started competing with you, I thought I had to prove I was good enough for you. I looked at him. And now? He smiled. Now I know I never had to prove anything. I kissed him. Neither did I. He rested his forehead against mine. So, what were we actually competing for? I smiled. Each other. He laughed softly. Yeah. We stayed like that for a moment. Then he pulled back. Race you. I stared at him. To where? The bedroom. I laughed. Why? Winner chooses what we do tonight. You're impossible. You're still coming. I followed him down the hallway because that was Amir, and I was Dorian. And after everything, some things weren't meant to change. We still challenged each other, still teased each other, still argued over stupid things, still tried to get the last word. But now, underneath all of it, there was something neither of us questioned anymore. We knew where we belonged, with each other. Looking back, I think that's what makes me laugh about the whole thing. We spent months trying to beat each other, and somehow we both ended up winning. Not because one of us came out on top, not because one of us was faster, smarter, stronger, or more successful. We won because we finally stopped treating love like something we had to earn. Amir didn't need to outperform me to deserve me. I didn't need to keep up with him to deserve him. We just had to be honest, and once we were, everything became easier. So, yeah, if you ever find yourself competing with someone over absolutely everything, maybe ask yourself why. Maybe you're jealous, maybe you're insecure, or maybe, like us, you're using competition as an excuse to stay close to someone you're terrified of losing. Because sometimes the person you're trying hardest to beat is actually the person you've been hoping would choose you all along. And in my case, he did. So I guess after all those races, Amir finally won. And honestly, I'm glad he did.